My name is Seth Sunderland. I'm the president of the Elephant Club, and we're excited to sponsor this convention debate. This is something that is important, and having the leaders is important. We recognize the service of the candidates for being willing to run for this office, but we also thank everyone here who's participated in this. This is what safeguards our liberty and helps keep Utah strong, free, and prosperous. So without further ado, let us go through the rules real quick. The rules were decided upon by the county chairs and their designates in partnership with the Utah Republican Party. In terms of the debate, there will be 2 sessions. The first sessions will have 6 people. The second session will have 5 people. We will conduct a drawing up here with all the candidates. The candidates who draw 1 through 6 will be seated 1 through 6 here on the chairs. The next 5, 7 through 11, will be sequestered. Mayor Tammy Tran will escort them to an area where they will not have access to any iPhones or media or telephones, so they'll be completely sequestered. And then following the first session, we will bring those candidates in for the second session. We do have a few ground rules that we want to observe. One is the initial statement will be 1 minute. Closing statements will be 2 minutes. Each response will be 1 minute. Candidates who go over time will have their overage time deducted from their next response. We have volunteers over here who are working with the timers, and so the candidates will be able to see how much time they have left. They'll be shown 15 seconds yellow, and then when they need to stop. We are also asking candidates not to refer to other candidates specifically who are not on stage with them. We do that because we are offering a rebuttal time for any candidate that is mentioned specifically by another candidate. We'll offer that candidate that was mentioned a rebuttal time of 30 seconds. And then in terms of the questions have been sourced by the county parties and their teams, from delegates and from the executive leadership teams, in conjunction with ABC4 Utah, and then the co-moderators have decided which questions to ask. So in terms of the rules, that's what we're observing. We ask all the candidates for their cooperation. They have had a full set of the rules and all agreed to those rules. Now, before we turn the time over to the moderators, we're going to go ahead and conduct the drawing. We have here sticks with a number on it. We'll have the candidates come one by one, choose a stick out, and then if you have stick 1, you'll sit right here, 2, 3, so on and so forth. If you have sticks 7 through 11, you'll go over here by the flag where Mayor Tran will conduct you to the sequestering area. So let's start with the candidates. Randomly, we came up with this list. First, Greg Hughes. Let's hold applause until the end. And that was one other rule that I forgot to mention is, in the interest of time, let's hold applause until the end because we want to fit in as many questions as possible, and we got 11 candidates here. So we will once we introduce everybody, we'll allow applause, and then at the end. So go ahead, Greg. Number 5. So go ahead and take seat number 5 over there. All right, Bruce Huff, and followed by Becky Edwards and Scott Hatfield. Oh, wait by the flag there. All right, Becky Edwards. Two. All right, take your seat. Oh. Scott Hatfield. All right, Quinn Denning and Jordan Hess. Scott? Oh, that's right. Good 6'4" right there, huh? 11. Yep. Jordan? 8. All right. Celeste Malloy, Scott Reber, Bill Hoster. Number 7. Scott.
9.
Number 9.
You tell me, am I 6 or 9?
Looks like a 6 to me.
Okay.
All right. And then Henry Eyring, Kathleen Anderson. 1, 4. All right. We wish luck to all of our candidates here during the debate, and I'd like to introduce our co-moderators. First, Chairman Rob Axon, and from ABC4 Utah, Glenn Mills. And so let's give a round of applause to our moderators and especially our candidates here.
Thank you, Seth. And thank you, all of you, especially delegates in the 2nd Congressional District, for joining us not only in person, but all of you that are joining us live, watching in the various platforms where this is being streamed, and any of you in the future that watch this a day or 2 days from now on a recording. Thank you for doing so. The Republican Party is very pleased to have had such wonderful partners. So I'm speaking on behalf of the state party where I'm the chairman, but I tell you what, these counties that we've partnered with, not only on the north end of the congressional district, but on the south end, have been spectacular. These are all voluntary positions of Utahns who firmly believe that conservative Republican principles are the best path forward for a future we want to raise our families in. So I'm grateful for the partnership with these various county party chairs. I have to make a pitch to any of you who believe in Republican-style politics, as well as who believe in the process of what we're blessed with in the United States, of having people represent us in Congress or in the legislature. It takes volunteer hours and it takes dollars to do this. So any of you who are able, please donate to these county parties, and certainly feel free to donate to the Republican Party or to your preferred candidates. That helps us with this vibrant process. So again, thank you for the time. We're going to enjoy the conversations with all of these candidates, and I'll turn the time over to Glenn Mills.
Thank you very much. My name is Glenn Mills. I'm a main anchor and chief political correspondent for ABC4. We're happy to provide our platform to help get the word out to voters in the 2nd Congressional District. We're happy to be here. And on that note, we do want to make one rule announcement change. Instead of trying to keep track of how much you went over and try to take it out of the next statement, we think it'll be better to just cut you off when your time is off, and so that's how we're going to move forward, as opposed to try to take 10 seconds here and 20 seconds there. So we will begin with opening statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their opening statement, and we will just go in order. Candidates will go to their left. We will begin with Henry.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, delegates, for being here today, and everybody who is supporting this process. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to introduce myself to you. The most important thing to know about me is that I'm a father. I'm here to tell you that America is making it hard for families, and you are experiencing this, or your children are experiencing this, or your grandchildren are experiencing this, and we need people with that experience in Washington, D.C. There's never going to be an easy time to run for office, but the important time to do it is when your heart tells you that you've had enough and that your voice needs to be heard. I hope that my voice will reflect your voice in that experience. I've had my constitutional freedoms of me and my family in raising them in schools infringed upon. I've had our constitutional rights to the Second Amendment infringed upon, and I see the right to life infringed upon every day, and that's what I'm here to fight for as a husband, as a father. Thank you.
Delegates, there we go. It is wonderful to be here with you this evening. Welcome to my district. You are squarely in the middle of the area, thank you, Henry, that I represented for 10 years in the House District 20. My husband and I, John, have had the great privilege of raising our 4 children, and the even better privilege of having 8 of our 11 grandchildren live in the district.
Hold on, we're still having trouble hearing.
Still? really close.
While they work that out, why don't you come over and use this one, because this is a hardwire that will work.
Start over. Okay, delegates, welcome to my district. You are squarely in the middle of the area that I represented for 10 years in the Utah House of Representatives. I loved the people of this district, and I loved even more the opportunity that my husband John and I have had to raise our 4 children here, and in fact have the even better privilege of having 8 of our 11 grandchildren live in this district as well. When I served in the Utah House, I had the privilege of meeting with delegates just like you and having them elect me over and over and over and over and over again 5 times, because just like you, the Republican values that we share are things that bring us together tonight and also embed those principles in how I served. I look forward to an opportunity to continue to work on your behalf, listen to your stories, act accordingly, and to bring Utah values to Washington, D.C. I love this district, I love this state, and I look forward to representing you. Let's have a great debate. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Scott Hatfield. Most importantly about me is I come from a single mother home. I grew up underneath the poverty line, but yet here I am before you guys. And I'm very grateful to be here. I was not a statistic, and I'm very grateful that I'm here to be in front of both delegates and all you fine ladies and gentlemen. I am a staunch conservative, constitutionalist, and a veteran. I've served alongside corrections officers. I've worked with the veterans, and I've worked with Senator Mike Lee. I know what it's like to be a constitutionalist. Much like Mr. Eyring, I've had my constitutional rights infringed upon. The Second Amendment is the most important thing to me, and I hope that we can take this journey together tonight and get to know everybody and our stances.
Good evening. I'm Kathleen Anderson, and I am a mom. I have never held elected office before, but I have raised 4 children over the last 31 years, and without a doubt, they are my greatest joy and achievement. I've always said, if you want something done, ask a mom. A luxury of time is something that we never seem to have. We cheerlead, we chaperone, we cook, we clean, we correct, we wipe bottoms, tears, faces, and we do loads of laundry and mounds of homework. And it teaches us to plan and to prioritize. And it also teaches us how to become responsible and resilient, and I think remarkable. I'm not running for Congress because I care about tea times or tea parties or dinners with lobbyists. I'm running because I love my family and because I will fight for you like family as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Greg Hughes. I'm running because I'm fundamentally and genuinely afraid of the future of this country. I understand we have a legislative branch that we find and we read about in our Constitution. I see checks and balances that we're supposed to see happening between the executive branch and the judiciary. I see a separate and equal power that the legislative branch is supposed to have, and I'm going to tell you from my vantage point, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the trajectory. I'm not seeing the trajectory of this country, one that's going to allow my children, my 3 young adult children that are entering this world or this life, be able to see the America or live in the America that I've lived in. That's not sustainable. I feel that I don't just know the legislative branch's role because I've read about it or I've observed it from afar. I've been a lawmaker. I've been the Speaker of the House. I've seen the legislative branch work. I've seen it work on behalf of the people and exercise those checks and balances that are so important. If you elect me, that's what I'm going to do, not just for us, but for our kids, to make sure that the legislative branch is doing its job.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Hoster. I just want to thank all of you for not showing up in shorts and a hoodie tonight. It's really an awesome opportunity to be in front of you. I'm really sick of rhinos, career politicians who are really causing a problem for our country. They're making decisions that don't represent us and our values. I'm a veteran, I'm a first responder, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a businessman, and I'm not a career politician. I stepped into being a mayor of the town of Leeds about 1.5 years ago, and I started to realize some serious problems that we have not at just our local level, but also at our federal level. And I think it's really to have something that has a backbone, that's going to stand up and do the right thing, represent the right principles, and not cave in to the special interests. Thank you.
User error. It goes with the moderators and some of the candidates. So we do the best we can with the equipment we have. So thank you everybody for your patience. Thank you for your introductory statements. So as we get to the question portion, every candidate is going to be asked the same question in this round as well as the subsequent round, which is why they're not able to hear what's going on, so that they don't have an advantage. With the exception of one question or one round of questions will be candidate specific. Everybody will have a specific question for that candidate. So getting into this very first question, and we're going to start with you, Becky. If you are to be elected, you would be the most junior member of the United States House of Representatives. What prepares you to be ready to be effective for the people of Utah's 2nd Congressional District?
That's a really great question, and especially when we consider the important committees that Congressman Stewart has been serving on. He's been an incredible representative for our state.
Your mic's cutting out again.
I like how well Henry and I are. Just me?
It's when it's in that spot. So let's have, if you don't mind, standing. We'll try to address this for later.
Okay. No? Okay. Honestly, I love all the suggestions. That is super helpful. I'm going to try that on my next question. I hope my minute hasn't started yet. I'm ready to go now. Here's the reality, and we all know this. We need a Congress that is willing and able to work together. For 10 years in the Utah House, I was able to bring people together, people across the political spectrum. In fact, I'm looking out here and I'm seeing people that I worked with who were friends and delegates and community members who had very different ideas than I did on some issues, and we were able to come together and work on problems, and we had solutions. And it didn't happen in year one, it happened 5 years after we had worked on this issue. You need people who are willing to look for common ground, not expect people to leave their principles behind, but bring Utah principles to solutions. We need more of that in Washington, D.C., and I have the 10-year background of doing that in my political world and my professional background as a marriage and family therapist, bringing people together.
Yeah, if you were to be elected as the youngest, or excuse me, as the most junior member of the United States House of Representatives, what prepares you to be effective for the people of the 2nd Congressional District?
Well, growing up in the Mojave Desert, I understand a lot of the issues that face, especially the southern reaches of this district. Water rights, wildland fire issues, and then also feeling as if you're disconnected from the rest of the state. Like I said, I grew up in Southern California in a small little district that Kevin McCarthy represented. We understand water rights. We understand that there's too much red tape that is in the way of letting you guys prosper. There are other states drawing off of that. Wildfires run rampant. There's not enough funding for that. And whenever I get in, I plan on taking my experience in the military. I've been under fire. I've worked in the Senate. I understand the issues that we all face as Utahns and as people of the state of Utah.
Is it on? I have never been afraid of hard work. I was raised by parents who instilled the value of hard work in me and in my siblings. I've always viewed work as a privilege, never as a punishment. And whatever I've ever put my mind to, I've worked hard at it. I heard a quote at a funeral of a friend of ours a few years ago, and his life motto was, "How you do anything is how you do everything," and I believe that. I take the role of stewardship very seriously, and if elected to fill this vacancy left by Chris Stewart, I pledge to work for you like I would work for my family, and I would hit the ground running. I'm capable, I'm not afraid to ask questions, and I'm a quick learner, and my commitment would be to you. And I would view it very much as a role of service, and one that if you entrust me with, I will do it to the best of my ability.
Tonight, you're going to hear me talk about the legislative branch and my experience in it. As Becky had mentioned, the legislative effort is an effort of addition. If you don't have the votes in a committee or on the floor, you might have a good idea, but that's all you have. When I was first elected in the Utah House, there was an invitation for the moderate caucus, and I said mainstream caucus, and I asked my colleagues, where the conservatives meet? They said, we don't have a conservative caucus. So I started one. And I had some lobbyists tell me, you know, you can't start these caucuses because leadership doesn't like these side caucuses. They don't appreciate them. I thought, I know leadership. They seem to be nice enough folks. We built that caucus. If it takes 38 votes to pass a bill in the House, we had a conservative caucus that ranked in the mid-40s. And at one point, we had a speaker that asked to be counted amongst the conservative caucus and wore the lapel pin. My point is this. I don't care if you're brand new to this job or if you've been there a while. It's going to be the relationships that you build, and it's going to be a mind and an eye to addition. You got to keep adding your numbers, and you got to keep working or the status quo wins.
Glenn, will you repeat the question for me?
I got it for you.
Thank
So
you.
if you were to be elected, you would be the most junior member of the United States House of Representatives. What prepares you to be effective for the people of your district?
I'm not a career politician. I've been in business for almost 25 years, and I've been a successful business person for 25 years. What I know is how to collect people to do the right thing and get things done. I can tell you that it's really important right now that we've got someone who's going to be able to work with the other members in Congress that are on the right team, that are going in the right direction. It's not going to be someone who's going to come in there and start to go along to get along. It's not going to be someone who's willing to go in there and compromise their principles or pay back any favors. It's going to be someone who's going to come in, stand strong with a backbone, and make the right choices with the right groups. Not one of us is going to be able to go in there and change everything. It's going to take us working with another good team, standing up, just like we saw with the Freedom Caucus in the House, and making sure that those agendas, those rules, those problems get resolved together. Thank you.
Thank you. We need somebody in Washington who understands what it's like to be on the other side of the alphabet soup, who understands what it's like to sit down in a PTA meeting that's got puppet strings coming down from the Department of Education. We need somebody who understands what it's like to pray for the life of an unborn child when people talk about my body, my choice. We need people who understand what it's like to have guns confiscated and to tell law enforcement officers that they don't have the right to do that. Those are the experiences that I've had. Life happens to you, and some experiences you would never wish on yourself or on anybody else change you. And we need that lived American experience. We're representative people. We're people who have experiences. We're not lifetime legislators. We're not looking to become the next 80-year-old head of all of the Senate and all of the Congress committees. We're looking to get in there, roll up our sleeves, and speak our voice as Americans, and that's what I'm here to do. Thank you.
All right, candidates, we're going to move to a policy issue, specifically federal spending and debt. We all know a couple weeks ago, Speaker McCarthy and the President came together to come up with a bipartisan deal that essentially puts our ceiling out 2 more years and makes some federal cuts to go along with that. If you were sitting in Representative Stewart's seat at the time, would you have voted yay or nay and explain your vote? Scott, we'll start with you on this one.
Plain and simple, no. Reason why is we are overspending. We need to only pass legislation that and spending bills that only fund parts of our government that are needed. We have too much spending that is going on that we, the people, do not want. We are sitting in a time where we are going to be paying for all of these ideology issues, all of these alphabet soup, as Henry put, quite, honestly. And we shouldn't be paying for these things. We need to fund our military, we need to fund border security, and we need to fund our veterans. And that is where we need to start, as well as ensuring that we have enough to cover those essential programs only.
This is an issue we certainly seem to talk a lot about. Talk, with very little action. Spending is out of control. The deficit is out of control. I don't know anyone who runs their personal lives the way that government does. And I don't know anyone who spends money the way the government spends ours. Washington, D.C. needs more taxpayers. I, too, would have voted no. The time for talking is over. We either lead by example or we're not leading at all. We talk as though we're fiscally conservative, and we vote differently. Congress has proven over and over again that unless they're required to do something, they don't have the courage to do the right thing. We need a balanced budget amendment. I would support that, but I would have voted no on this. It's time to rein in Washington, and that starts when we get more taxpayers serving in Washington and controlling what happens with our money and your money. Thank you.
So the quick answer is I would not, and the easy reason is that the deadline for that is January of 25. Does anyone remember the Pelosi bill of January 23, a lame duck Congress? One that's left power, been removed from power, being able to build a giant budget, an irresponsible budget. I can't understand why, even on that date alone, that was okay to do when you have these important 24 elections coming up. But we're being parachuted into this question a little bit. It's a yes or no answer. What I would hope would happen with good lawmakers is before you even get to that yes or no on the floor for that vote, that you're going upstream a little bit. I don't know Speaker McCarthy, but I would imagine you'd be talking to your caucus and talking about where you're negotiating with the president, his administration, and you better be finding those strong lines like the one I'm describing to make sure that what you're getting in that bill represents the people and represents the people here in this district. And I'm telling you, we're going to keep talking common sense, folks. Everything we're talking about right now is common sense. I want someone to tell me why a lame duck Congress should actually be the one that faces that deadline of the ceiling debt or the ceiling cap. It doesn't make any sense.
Time
you
is
gotta
up.
do better work.
One more time.
Would you have voted yay or nay on the bill to extend the debt ceiling and the compromise between Speaker McCarthy and President Biden? And explain your vote.
So I'm sure most of you are aware that Biden had been saying, and his administration had been saying to the Congress that he is not going to negotiate on the debt ceiling. He was not going to negotiate at all on the debt ceiling, not one bit. We were able to actually get negotiations done on the debt ceiling, and that was important. That was a win for us. Now, was it the win? No. What we had was a bunch of mandatory spending that we had to do, but the discretionary spending that we could have cut could have been a lot better. My answer actually is yes. I would have continued this. I'm not going to compromise your mandatory spending. But I do believe that we can do better with this. Do you know we're spending about $1 billion a year, and I'm not going to call it the alphabet soup. I'm going to call it the alphabet mafia. We're doing about $100 billion a year that are going into this. We're spending billions into other countries that we're borrowing. Those negotiations should have happened a long time before we got to that vote. Thank you.
So any of us who've worked in business or who've had a or who college. In the dead zone. Okay, get out of there. Okay. Or have just gone off to college and had to check if they're going to be able to pay their tuition and their rent, knows that you decide that at the beginning of the year. So we need to decide this long in advance. So if we're looking at a 2-year timeline, we need to decide long in advance what the ceiling is and stay within it. It needs to be a ceiling and not a thermometer. Right now, it's basically just telling us where we're at. I remember talking about it 3 or 4 years ago when we were worried about the 20 trillion range, now in the 30 trillion range. So I would vote no on that bill, and that's a hypothetical, because if I were in Congress at the time, I would have started talking about it 2 years in advance and says, here's the hard line. We're at an opportune time because we should never spend more than we spent during a pandemic, during a national crisis, and so that can be the hard ceiling. Let's never go above that. I don't want to see decreases in the slope. I want to see a negative slope. I want it to go down, and that's something that I'm willing to do right when I get elected.
The reality is that long before we get to the debt ceiling conversation, we have to have relevant, serious conversations about spending in this country. Congress is spending in a way that we would never allow here in Utah. Greg and I know this because in Utah, we are required to balance our budget. And let me tell you what, it's not easy. Just because we're required to do it doesn't mean it's easy, because there are a million good things. There are a million people that come up there and they've got great ideas and good things that they'd like to get funded. But we all know as Republicans, that's not the role of government, is to fund every good idea. We have to be thoughtful. We have to be responsible with taxpayer dollars. And long before that conversation even happens for the debt ceiling, we have to have had more transparency and accountability with everything that has to do with the budget on the federal level.
Just real quick follow-up, yes or no on voting for that bill?
Yes, it's not actually increasing our spending, it's just being responsible with stuff that's already been spent. So that's the real challenge here, is that we have to be responsible with the discussions around spending long before that even happens, and that's what I'm advocating for.
Okay, thank you. All right, our next question will begin with Kathleen, and we're going to talk about the Respect for Marriage Act. This is something Congress passed just late last year. It essentially provides a statutory authority for same-sex and interracial marriage. 3 of our 4 representatives voted for that, including Representative Stewart. Representative Owens was a present vote, and our senators were split on this vote. Would you have voted in favor of this or not, and explain your vote?
If I'm correct, that legislation was actually modeled by or after a legislation that we passed in Utah years earlier, correct? And I would have voted for it. I would have voted like Congressman Stewart. Obviously, I strongly support the traditional marriage, but I also support equality, and I know that that's needed in relationships that people have for various reasons, and I would have voted yes. And I believe very much in equality and that we don't discriminate for things. And I supported it when it was here locally, and I would have supported along with our delegation, except for, I guess, Congressman Owens. So thank you.
I'd vote against that bill. Now, I was part of the 2015 effort to see that our Utah Anti-Discrimination Religious Liberty Bill was passed. The big red flag for me on that bill is that we had many faith leaders in this country that worried that this was undermining or threatening our religious liberties. The role and the definition of marriage is established. It doesn't need to be colored up. It doesn't have to be added to. We know what's legal. We know that decision's already been made. So when I hear from religious and faith leaders in the country that say, there's a problem here, we have genuine concern, I'm going to listen to that. And I'm going to ask why that's the case. And so I think that issue is, well, as nice as the title of that bill is, I think there's some worry. When you hear some of the voices that were concerned about that bill, I understand why Senator Lee didn't vote for it, and I would have joined him in that vote.
So I'd have voted no. And the reason being is not because I am against anyone being able to marry whoever they want. My oldest son is gay. I highly respect his relationship. I think that is something that the government shouldn't be involved with. I can tell you that I also agree with what Mike Leake had analyzed about that bill, and that it is a backdoor into the religious liberties. And so the way this bill was written was wrong. I think its intent was right, but there were gaps in there that should have been addressed. I believe that we do have equality across all, but I don't think it's a place that the government should be stepping into. Thank you.
We have a court system, and we have a judicial system, and we've got an executive branch, and we need to figure out what each person or what each branch is doing. We've got judiciaries that are legislating, and we've got executives that are mandating. And so this is a question that I think is best left to individual states. States have legislators, they set policies for their states. The closer we get to the people in those states, the less risk we have of a backdoor going into anybody's religion or anybody's beliefs in a given state. We let the people in that state vote and make those decisions at the state level. So I wouldn't vote to make that at the federal level. I would let individual states make those decisions, and I also wouldn't rely on the judiciary to set precedent that then is really about it's a legal matter. It's about making a law, not about judging the interpretation of the law. So that's my answer there.
In 2015, Utah came together in a remarkable way and passed a non-discrimination law that was supported by many faiths in this state, supported by the LGBTQ community, and it was something that took years in the making. It responded to the very legitimate and real concerns of folks who are concerned about our religious freedoms being encroached upon, and also fairness across the board. That was a model that, honestly, at the time, I thought we would start to see state after state after state follow suit, because the process was good, it was respectful, it brought people together, and the outcome was good. I think when we see that same approach modeled on the national level, I support the process and the principles behind that both address the community members for whom this is addressing, and also maintains the integrity of our religious freedom.
Yes, sir. In regards to the bill, I would have voted no, not because I'm against that community, but because it's a 10th Amendment right. It's the state's rights, plain and simple. The states have the right to dictate those types of issues. Much like what Bill and Henry have said, yeah, it comes after our freedom of religion, and we're starting to teeter on the edge of government overreach, and the government should not be overreaching into our lives at the federal level. We have the 10th Amendment there for a reason, and as we did here in Utah, we passed the Non-Discrimination Act. It's already here. The federal government shouldn't be intervening in that any further.
This next round of questioning, we're now to the candidate-specific questions. So each of you will be asked a question that is unique to you, and we're going to be starting with you, Greg. So currently, you do some work as a registered lobbyist. Tell the delegates how that is a question or a concern that they may need you to answer for, and how would you approach the relationship as a member of Congress with lobbyists?
Thank you for the question. So when I ran in 2020 for governor, I was 100% convinced I was going to win. I burned the boats at the shore. I had no other plan. Well, I didn't win. And I went back to my business. I have a small business with a business partner, and he looked at me and he said, "Man, you got a lot of opinions. You don't have to come in here all the time." And so, my wife's saying, "Why are you here at 5:30? I said, "I don't know. I followed the crowd. It was the end of the day." I'm watching a lot of Netflix when a sheriff calls me and says, "We have these anti-public safety bills, these anti-law enforcement bills just coming at us in the legislature. Would you ever be interested in helping?" Yeah. What I have found in this post-public service time of my life is that I've been able to help 29 elected county sheriffs and the Sheriff's Association. I've been able to help Washington County on their issues with lands and water. I've been able to help Kane County, work with them on lands, work with the Water Conservancy District. What I've been able to do, it was by Braille, is actually lobby and work and consult for issues I spent my time as a public service working on. And
Thank you. Bill, now first let me correct something I need to know because it's part of the question that I was asked to ask you. You're relatively new to Utah. Am I correct in understanding that?
No.
Okay, well that then spoils the first question option that I had, so I'll go to the second question option that I have for you.
Okay.
So you have been critical of members of Utah's delegation at times and some of the actions or decisions that they have taken. How does that prepare you to be a colleague of theirs once you join them as a member of Congress?
So I want to make sure I understand your question because it's kind of a little scattered. My history of being critical of others and dictating how I'll be able to work with them going forward?
Correct. So
Okay.
delegates have stated that you have been critical of current members of our congressional delegation, and how
True.
does that prepare you to work with them as colleagues?
Yeah, you see it right on my logo. I'm sick of rhinos. And the way I see it is that they have made some bad decisions for whatever reason. Now, I don't know that I want to follow anybody who's going to be doing those things. In fact, I know I'm not. I'm going to lead in those circumstances. The way I see it is that we have to work together with people for a common goal, but that common goal has got to be for you. It's got to be constitutional. It's got to be the right principle to get the right things done. It's not go along to get along. And I have seen career politicians who have done that, who have made those choices, and yes, I will speak out about that. And if it causes them angst, move on. Thank you.
Henry, coming to you. So during much of your adult life, you have lived outside of Utah and even outside of the United States. How are you prepared to understand and represent the needs of Utah's 2nd Congressional District?
Sure, I mean, I think I should correct that as well, if that's all right. I mean, but do you want to ask a different question, or?
Nope, time is yours.
Okay, but then does correcting it also count against my minute?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I took classes right down here at Woods Cross High. My family served a mission in Tokyo, and then afterward I went to school at BYU, Idaho, which is really a suburb of Utah, and my father served there for the church with our values, with the values I grew up here. We served in Japan with those values. I went to college. I went to university at Harvard Business School. And I took a great opportunity to understand how to allocate costs down to individual activities and cut the waste. And that's what I've spent my adult life doing. My dissertation was at University of Utah Healthcare. I spend almost all of my time working on projects Can I get 15 seconds? Yeah. Working on projects with University of Utah Healthcare to get you better healthcare at a lower cost. And I've done that across the states. And sometimes I take my family with me for a couple months. Sometimes I commute. I've taught at Utah State. Thank you. So that's my answer. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. So a little bit of housekeeping. Because of that dead zone that happens to be in front of that spot, I'm going to ask you, Becky, to come and speak here to make sure that everybody online also can hear your answer, because they deserve to hear that. Sorry, let me get to your question. You have been active in encouraging people to change their party affiliation to participate in the Republican nomination process, with some of these very people celebrating having a say in a party that they publicly oppose. How do you protect the party and its platform from manipulation?
I'll tell you what I've done here in this party. I've served as a Republican for 10 years in this district. I believe in the caucus convention system. For 5 times, I had the support from delegates just like you, just like me, who saw in me an ability and a willingness to work hard for them. And it's been a great privilege. In fact, the last convention was a time when I actually got 80% of the delegate vote because we had built relationships with people, and that, I think, made all the difference. I also know how important it is for people to have a voice. You know, Utah's one of the fastest growing states in the country. We have a lot of new people moving in, and so I have encouraged people, register to vote. You know, when we're out and I'm meeting with people and everything, I'm saying, are you registered to vote? Do you want to have a say in what happens here in Utah? Do you align with the Republican values? fiscal responsibility,
Time.
smaller government, join us.
Thank you. Scott, question to you. As someone new to the political process within the party, how are you prepared to best represent the interests of the Utah Republican Party?
That's a great question. I personally would love to work with the constituency. I plan on being a man for the people. I want to meet with every single one of you in your homes if I could. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But I would love to do that because I want to be a man for the people. I am new to this, but that doesn't mean that I'm not willing to hit the ground running, dig deep. I will rely on my core values that I learned in the Navy: honor, courage, and commitment. I will have the honor to serve you guys constitutionally and correctly. I'll have the commitment to you, and I will have the courage to make the hard choices.
Thank you. Kathleen, you have been a candidate for a congressional office before in a different congressional district. How can the people in Utah's 2nd congressional district know that you are focused on their needs?
Thank you for the question. When I ran in Congressional District 4, I lived in Congressional District 4. And with the census of 2020, when they redrew the boundaries, I now reside in Congressional District 2. I haven't moved, the boundaries did. And I only lived in the Congressional District 4 boundaries for maybe, I don't know, a year or two before I was drawn back into 2, which is where I have spent my adult life here in Salt Lake. As you know, those boundaries change through no fault of voters or citizens. You end up where you end up when they redraw those boundaries, and I'm committed to the 2nd Congressional District and to Utah. I've lived here in Salt Lake for the past, let's see, I think I've been in Utah 38 years, so about 29 of them right here in Salt Lake County. And I've raised my kids here. My kids have gone through public school here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, candidates, let's talk about the 2024 field. Much like this race, there's a very big field when it comes to the Republican nomination for president. My question to you is there a candidate in the field for 2024 that you support? Who is it and why? And if you haven't decided yet, talk to us about your top 2 or 3 choices. Bill, you are first.
So I can tell you that when the 2016 elections came around, I was not in favor of Donald Trump at all. I watched everything. I was like, this is crazy. And then I saw the first presidential debate when Brett Baier asked who is going to, by show of hands, support who the GOP nominates. Donald Trump's hand didn't go up. And he asked why. And he said, well, if it's not me, I'm not going to support him. I'm here to win. And that's when I realized this is a guy who's in it for the right reasons. I started seeing all of the things that he did. He came in, we've got a 2-tier justice system now because they're so threatened by what this guy has done. And I think it's phenomenal. Now, is this the guy who's going to win? I sure hope so. I sure hope so. I know he could be a lot more eloquent in what he does and such, but he has really brought the voice back to the people. And now we just need to get the unison part done. Thank you.
So hopefully, like you, delegates who haven't decided who you're going to vote for, get out of the dead zone. I haven't decided who I'm going to vote for either because I want to check their teeth. When we buy a horse on the ranch, we check their teeth first. And I want to know what's coming up in the next 4 to 8 years. I like what I see out of Ron DeSantis, and I like what I see out of Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek has had a distinguished career, pulled up by his own bootstraps in business. I think we need people in government who understand how business works, because that's the real engine of the American economy and the engine of American families. I like Ron DeSantis's way of running Florida. I know people who've lived in Utah and live in Florida and say, gee, that's a great place with American freedoms and liberties and economic liberties. And then we know what we saw from Donald Trump. Nobody has done more for areas I care about, like healthcare, to make it lower cost and higher quality than Donald Trump's administration. And so I feel like it's embarrassment of riches.
This is early days in this race, let's face it. We haven't even hit Iowa. Candidates are still entering the race. I hope you're all looking at it just like I am. I'm looking for a candidate that I can support that can win the White House. This is important because we need to have Republicans in the White House so we can right the ship, quite honestly, and we can have some accountability on the Republican Party, which for far too long has actually had a credibility problem with spending. Let's be honest about that too. We need to look at every single person on this ballot, and I'm interested in seeing people take their expertise and put it on the federal level, and really we're starting to see some interesting things out of several candidates. I think this is a time when we really have to be serious about what's happening in China and Russia and looking at some of those relationships. I'm interested to see what Nikki Haley, with her background, is bringing up about those. But I want to see a Republican in the White House who can win.
For me, I am stuck on two candidates. I personally really like Vivek Ramaswamy. Again, I like his business mind. I like that he is willing to work to cut government spending. He's willing to work and get rid of, as Bill pointed out, the alphabet mafia. He's willing to also reach across party lines. However, I do like policy that President Trump put through. Much like Bill, I don't agree with a lot of the things that the way he holds himself. But America was prosperous underneath him. And that's what we need, is a prosperous America and a prosperous place for where all of us can be prosperous together.
For anyone who knows me, it's no secret that I have cast 4 votes for Donald Trump. The primary, the general election in 2016, and again in 2020. And I think there's one other person on stage who has done that with me. I'm not going to lie, though. Don't think I don't get Trump fatigue. I do. I get very tired. But I liked America a lot better when he was our president. And if he is the nominee in 2024, he will get my vote. America was more stable. The world was more stable. The man they said who wasn't stable brought stability, and we were prosperous. And he did put our country first. And I think every sovereign nation on this earth has a right to put their country first. Take care of those at home before we address needs abroad. And Donald Trump did those things. As far as the other candidates, I am grateful for any who put their names forward. And I do like DeSantis, and I like Ramaswamy as well.
I know you're all on the edge of your seat. I support Donald Trump for president, and it's not even close. I make no apologies for this man. He came into office and he did things that we've only dreamt the Republican president would do. 3 conservative Supreme Court justices saving this country in real time. I thought we couldn't be energy independent. I thought you could lower your dependency on foreign oil. I didn't know that within 2 years of administration you could be completely energy independent, as we've seen. He came, most importantly, he came to this state. He came and took these national monuments, Staircase Escalante with the Bears Ears, Clinton and Obama the same, in the last month of their presidency, as an ATM to the environmentalists and giving away the land and prohibiting people from accessing it. He came to this state and he repealed it. He actually scaled it back massively. You'll never see another president do it because there's not enough political capital as a reward to look out for so few people who've been victimized. This guy has shown it, and I don't understand how he's dealing with the kind of 2-tier system. He doesn't act out of fear, and he has my vote.
Thank you, candidates. This will be the last question before your closing statements. So, in Utah's 2nd Congressional District, we have a geographic footprint that is larger than 14 United States states. There are many diverse perspectives and issues across your district. How do you balance the needs from Air Force and military issues on the north to lands issues on the south and everything in between? How are you prepared to balance that? Remind me where we're at. Are we, Henry, we're starting with you.
Yep. So growing up, I grew up in North Salt Lake. I lived in Centerville. Okay, I'll start over. So I grew up in North Salt Lake. My parents met in Bountiful, two Bountiful Braves. I studied here at Woods Cross. I had the experience of kind of knowing the history of Davis County and what it can be, what it was like for me as a kid. I didn't think about cultural attacks on my beliefs in school. I thought about reading, writing, and arithmetic. I went down to southern Utah and competed in the Summer Olympic Games there. And I was focused on being a happy kid who had the cycle of hard work and effort and reward. Those are the uniquely Utah values that I want to go fight for families. In terms of the land management down there, we've got a family cattle ranch, and I'm on emails and on the phone fighting back bureaucrats all the time that are trying to take our rights to our water and our grazing land and make it impossible to have the Western way of life. So I don't think that anybody is in a better position to understand CD2. This is where we live. This is where I've lived with my family. This is where I grew up. And all these things are very near and dear to my heart. It's core to who I am.
Becky, just start with this one.
I don't think there's been an easier time for people to actually address the varied needs of the people of CD2. We've seen it over and over. People's awarenesses, people's commitment to come together on issues. We've seen this with water. Our once-in-a-century drought that we've been experiencing over the past few years is an example of where Utahns have come together. It's impacted everything from the top of CD2 in Farmington all the way down to Fruita, from Cedar City to Scipio, Salt Lake to, I'm trying to think of another city that starts with an S. It is an amazing thing to see Utahns come together. We have different needs, different issues that are important to us, but I think that over and over we see the good-heartedness, the commitment to each other that has been embedded in this state for centuries. That's what makes us uniquely Utah, and I think that it's a great opportunity today to see more of that.
Can you repeat the question just real quick?
Yeah, with the diverse nature of the 2nd Congressional District, with how large it is and how big of a geographic footprint it has, how are you prepared to represent the diverse needs of the district?
Well, like I said before, I'm willing to meet with you guys. I'm willing to come to your homes. I'm willing to come to your businesses. I'm willing to figure out what needs to be done for you. I am also a veteran. I know the needs of military bases. I know the needs of veterans. I also grew up loving the Sierra Nevada and public lands. I know the government is seizing those lands from you. They are using it for their political gain, but we have to pay for those. Those lands that we cherish so much, that we hunt on, that we fish on, that we use for agriculture, that we use for our personal recreation. I will be willing to stand up for you guys in Washington as an immovable barrier to ensure that you guys are represented correctly on these issues.
I think the most important qualities are to be present, to be engaged, and to be aware. We have issues facing our district that I don't hear people talking about on this stage. I don't hear it come up at all. We talk, Becky mentions the drought and water, and I look at the water reports and I see how many areas within our district are testing over and over and over again, sometimes hundreds of times, the toxic levels of metals and chemicals in their water, and nobody talks about it. 3 of the top 6 are in the Congressional District 2. 2 are in Washington County, another is in Juab. We have the Hilldale, the Big Plains water sources, as well as Eureka and Juab. Clean air gets a lot of attention, as it should, but as should things like water. We have people drinking toxic levels of water in our state and within this district, and nobody is talking about it, and I will.
It's a great question. It's a very large district, 13 different counties. They don't look the same. I think what you want in a representative representing you in Congress is someone that's not disconnected from the issues in your community and in your life. When you look at these counties, you have to ask, can someone from any given county actually connect with all the other counties? I feel I'm that candidate in that in my time of public service, and especially when I was Speaker of the House, I traveled this whole state. We worked on issues of lands. We went back to DC to issue and fight for land access with the federal government. We worked on water issues. When I come up north, issues in Tooele County with the transportation and a Salt Lake City that owns the airport in Tooele County, I've worked on those issues, even with the Secretary of Transportation. When we get to Salt Lake County and Davis County, these growth issues I've worked on immediately. So I think I have a touch through my public service, through all of these counties, and that's an important perspective that you would need from a congressman that's going to represent such a large and diverse district as this.
So I grew up in Bountiful. I actually competed against Woods Cross because I went to Bountiful High. And then I raised my kids in Salt Lake County, and I moved down to Washington County about 5 years ago. Now, I don't know anybody in here who might be able to tell me what chocolate tastes like, to someone who's never tasted chocolate. But I can tell you that if you're able to live in each one of these different areas, you understand it's different. It is different. It's not vastly different, but it is different. It's just like trying to describe chocolate. I get where each one of them are coming from. Now, as a mayor, an active mayor, I can tell you that I'm involved with the League of Cities and Towns, and we do talk with all of the other mayors about the issues that we're having on the state level as well as at the local level. I do get when I hear someone from the north talk about this and someone from the south talk about that, I can empathize and understand exactly where they're coming from. So I feel like I'm one of the best qualified candidates up here. Thank you.
All right, we are going to go ahead and conclude now with closing statements. And it just so happens you will be up again because the rule is for closing, we will go the opposite direction. Each candidate will have 1 minute for closing statement.
Well, thank you everyone for your time, your attention, and your dedication. I know that as a delegate, your job to vet out these great candidates is really important. You're supposed to listen to your constituents, which is exactly what I'm trying to do here, what I've done as a mayor. I'm not a career politician. I'm an outsider. I've worked on the other side of government for a long time. I've been successful, but I've also had failures. Each one of those failures have taught me a lot. I know how to rally with a good team, get things done. And that's the most important thing. Even if it sounds like it's unpopular, you make the right choice. And that's what I'm here to do. Again, I'm really sick of the people who are bending over the rules, the Constitution, and your rights. With the ridiculous spending, it's important that we have someone with a backbone that's going to stand up and make the right choices. I appreciate your vote, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I've appreciated this discussion, but a minute's hard to explain a lot of what we're talking about here. One of the things we've missed is the attack on our middle class, the attack on everyday Americans with the common sense that we all have that we cannot find when we look at Washington, D.C. I'm going to tell you that there is fear by the media, fear by a overbearing and a heavy-handed federal government, fear from a woke mob. If you have not been in the pressure cooker of public service, if you've not had that fear deployed, if you've not had those efforts by a regime media to intimidate and to try and compel your behavior, you might think you know what you'll do in those moments. But I'm going to tell you, until you've been in it, you don't know. I know. I've seen this happen. I've watched it, and we've held strong. What you get in me is a fighter. You get someone who knows where they're at, the rudder in the water, and will continue to fight for you. We never talked about some of these issues, and we are, as delegates, talking about these issues that are impacting your life in real time. I will continue to do that with you, and I'll take it back to Washington. Appreciate your support. Thank you.
I appreciate everyone who is here tonight, both the audience and everyone on stage with me. Until you have thrown your hat into an arena such as this, you will never understand the courage that it takes. For me, it's a significant leap outside of my comfort zone. I have my entire life shown up, stood up, and spoken up. I might appear to not be a fighter, but I am very much a fighter. And when I became a mother, I realized what that mother bear instinct was. And I absolutely understand right from wrong. And where we are as a society today, here in the United States, is less right versus left as it is right versus wrong. I am willing to go and to represent you and to take that stewardship very seriously. When I say that I will fight for you like family, I mean that. I will fight for you like family.
Well, as the new guy throwing his hat into the ring, I don't have loads of experience. However, I will go to Washington, and as I said before, I will stand as an immovable barrier between you and your constitutional rights. I am not a man who comes from good beginnings. Like I said, I come from a single family home, a single mother home, under the poverty line. We didn't know when we were going to have our next meal. My mother struggled to keep a house over our head. I understand that's going on right now with the attacks from the Biden administration. The middle class is being attacked. The middle class is being scaled back. I am willing to go there and take on the hard questions. I am willing to take my experience in the military of knowing what it's like, the ultimate price of freedom, holding my friends as they passed away. I know what it's like to raise my right hand and stand for the Constitution. And that's what I will do in Washington. Thank you.
You know, we're here in an auditorium that's normally filled with kids, right? Elementary school kids come here for their recitals and their music programs, and usually high school kids. Isn't that sort of what this race is all about? It's about the future, right? It's about your children, your grandchildren, and my grandchildren who are growing up in this community, and we all want a bright future for them. And I want to tell you, I feel optimistic about the future of this country because I believe in Utah. I believe in the future. I believe in the kids and the people of this great state. I know that it's possible for us to influence Washington, D.C. with Utah values. I have a history and a legacy of public service in my family, from fallen officers to people who have been elected, going back generations, early days in Utah. Legacy of public service, commitment to this state, and a deep love for America. I'm Becky Edwards. I'm running for Congress. Thank you for your support.
I grew up in this area, in this auditorium, singing "I'm Proud to Be American" with all of my elementary school class. I wish that that's what was going on in American schools today. I don't believe that it's possible for any given parent to take on the Department of Education, but I believe that if enough of us stand up together, we can take it on. I'm here not for a better tomorrow, I'm here for a better right now. And I'm running because I am angry, because I've sent my wife to go talk to the educators. I've waited for her call back, and guess where they were working from? Home. We couldn't get a reply. It's time to have people who have that urgency, who have that experience in Washington, going in with positions of power, representing you and your families and our shared experiences. And I'm here to do that for you. I'm here with 2 ears and 1 mouth. I'm your representative. I'm not your authoritarian or anything any more than just somebody who cares about what you care about. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in applauding all of these wonderful candidates. Thank you, all of you, for representing yourselves well. We appreciate it. Please leave your microphones there. A couple of quick housekeeping things. The booth space is off limits. Out of respect to the next crowd, please do not exit the space and hold concourse out there. You need to respect the next portion of the debate. You all now have a couple of minutes to do what you need to do. So please keep it short. How many minutes are we looking at? 10 minutes? 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes. We will be reconvening for the next questions.